Welcome to Good Game Pocket Edition, our weekly roundup for gamers by gamers. I'm Hex.
And I'm Barjo, and this week we delve into the weird and wonderful world of Final Fantasy XIV Online, A Realm Reborn.
First up though, let's look at the indie PC adventure Papers, Please. Would you let this person into the country? That's the uncomfortable decision you'll continually face as a border clerk for the fictional Eastern European country of Arstotzka. Your job entails thoroughly checking each incoming person's story against their paperwork, even down to checking dates on stamps. On top of this, there are hints of a government conspiracy, and you also have your own starving family to support. Make mistakes or bend too many rules and it's game over for your job and your family.
Yeah, this game is full on. I was trying to process as many people as possible to earn the money I needed for my family. But if you rush it, you inevitably miss some minor detail and get fined by your boss. But it's not game over, each day is saved, so you can just go back a couple of days to when you were doing a bit better.
I found it was the little personal dilemmas of some of the characters that really drew me in. One example was the woman who slipped me a note saying she was afraid of a man who she was certain was going to force her to work in a brothel and begged me not to let him through. Of course, his paperwork was all in order, so you're left with the decision: deny this man entry based on a note from a stranger or let him through.
Yeah, there's some tough choices to make. Detaining people, sending them away in spite of their pleas, none of it feels good. But there's an interesting power shift that takes place when your monotonous job actually becomes about strategically letting certain dissidents in. And there are even bomb threats.
Yeah, I do think it's great when a game like this gets people talking. However, let's not forget that at its core, this is a paperwork sim. I mean, you're literally checking paperwork. I found going through these motions such a chore that I was torn between wanting to find out more and just wanting it all to stop, so I gave it 6.5.
I think that's fair enough. I think this will be divisive, but I just loved all those choices you had to make and how it turns you into a bit of a storyteller afterwards, so I gave it 8 out of 10 rubber chickens. Next up, a JRPG remastered, Kingdom Hearts 1.5. A decade ago, the cast of Final Fantasy and Disney's animated films were thrown together into their own adventure with the original Kingdom Hearts. Now this game, and a second Japan-only spin-off, Rechain of Memories, has been bundled together and given the HD treatment. In both games, you play the plucky youngster Sora, who battles shadowy villains through numerous iconic Disney locations.
Say I'm convinced these old school Disney characters are still a big draw card for younger gamers today. But I did think the game's cartoony style really took on an extra shine with the HD coat of paint. And although the combat's a little simplistic, the special moves kept it interesting.
I thought the original game holds up quite well, but I really struggled with Rechain of Memories. It's got a very different style of combat, which focuses on playing cards. And between that and the story about everyone forgetting everything, it just confused me. But there's no denying that this is a very faithful and lovingly remastered collection. All in all, I gave it 8 out of 10 rubber chickens.
It was an 8 from me too. Now we fend off aliens in the wonderful 101 on Wii U. To save the planet, you must team up with 100 other heroes to form the wonderful 101. You can see elements of Pikmin at play here as your swarm of heroic minions trail you around the battlefield. The twist is that this game allows you to create massive weapons out of your heroes.
I like the way the Wii U's touchscreen could be used to draw the weapon you wanted. And it's clever that the bosses can only be defeated by specific weapons, like yanking this guy's spikes off with a whip. I think they could have explained the combos a bit better though. I ended up doing a lot of trial and error.
Yeah, it's lucky this game has a very forgiving respawn mechanic so you don't lose any progress when you die. Other than a few frame rate issues, I thought this was a really fun twist in the usual superhero gameplay. I gave this a wonderful 8 out of 10.
I also gave it 8 out of 10. Now, shall we go answer some questions?
Yes.
Good game.
Okay, question time, and this week we've got a question from Crosby Man, who is in Skyrim in Queensland. How do you guys decide whether a game is in a pile of shame or not, and how is it taken out of the pile? E.g., if you have all of the achievements or have just finished the main storyline. Thanks.
Ah, the dreaded pile of shame. Well, Crosby man, if you hit the end credits, then I think it's safe to proudly remove it from the shame stack. In general, I think if you started a game and left before those credits roll, then, it belongs in the pile.
Yeah, but I think everyone probably has a different shame rule. For example, there's loads of games that I play in my own time that I just don't finish because I don't like them. Although I guess you could say I have another pile for games like that called Pile of Wasted Time and Money. And those games are never to be touched again, so.
And of course, games can actually make a return to your pile when downloadable content is released. Skyrim was definitely one that went out of my pile of shame and then just kept sucking me back in with all that DLC and exploring more.
What about things like sports games or an MMO, for example?
I think just getting to the level cap in an MMO is enough to say, okay, that can come out of the pile of shame. But once again, they're always releasing new content too, so that never really ends. And I think sports games just altogether defy the pile of shame because you can play through the career, but they never really end either. You have friends over, you pull it out, you refine your skills.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I definitely don't think you need to 100% a game or earn all of the Chivos for it to get out of the pile, though. I mean, you'd have to be a pretty meticulous completist. Again, I have another pile for any game where I'm trying to do that, known as the Pile of Perfection. And it's a rare game indeed that finds its way into that pile.
Yes, and sometimes, games can just sit there in their case untouched for a long period of time because just jumping into it is daunting. I know the thought of jumping in and cracking a 100-hour RPG is kind of stressful and can be a bit too much to bear when you've got a whole bunch of other games on the boil. But on that note, I think it's time for your review.
Oh, and what to look at today. How about we see what everyone thought of Splinter Cell Blacklist?
Good choice, Hex. And just to change it up, let's start off with the hate, which this week was supplied by Peter Patina, who writes, "They have ruined Splinter Cell. It used to be about stealth, now it's a run-around shooting game. The controls have changed, the voices have changed, the actions have changed, and all for the worse. If you love the series, you'll hate this one. I couldn't even do the first level on normal trying to do stealth. In the end, I just ran around shooting wildly, and that is the only way you can get through it. It's not Splinter Cell anymore. Absolutely hate this game with a vengeance. If you think I'm the only one, just look at all the bad reviews it's getting on YouTube and the net. Everyone is saying that they are giving up on Splinter Cell. It has been ruined. Half a star, ouch! Well, Peter, some of the GG team have finished the game without killing anyone and almost perfectly ghosting every mission, so it is certainly possible to stealth through. It is much harder to do though, and I think that's kind of the point they wanted to make with this game.
Yeah, and I thought it was actually designed really well, letting you go all stealth or all action or any mix that you like. Mr. K here seems to agree with that, writing the game was amazing. The story was great, yes, the voices changed, but I think he sounds better. I love the fact that you can be silent or just go in guns blazing or just simply leave the enemies be. 10 out of 10.
Likewise, Rory had nothing but praise writing. Having been a big fan of the Splinter Cell franchise, I was very let down by Conviction and its restrictive nature. Ubisoft lifted their game and made the series exciting and innovative, in my opinion on par with Chaos Theory. High praise indeed, 10 out of 10. I think Chaos Theory is still my favourite in the series though, maybe with Blacklist as a second.
And of course, it wouldn't be your review if we didn't have a review from H.2, who wrote, "Whilst I think after plenty of Splinter Cell games the story is being too complicated, and after Conviction losing the focus on Sam Fisher's life, I find that its stealth gameplay is still really good and the multiplayer is now more refined than before. Overall, the core of it is better, but the graphics aren't crash hot and the AI is a bit rubbish. Still, it's a good entry into the series. 8 stars.
Well, a mostly positive pile of opinion there, I'd say. But on that note, we should go back to the studio house.
Yeah.
Good game.
When Final Fantasy XIV Online came out in 2010, it was a surprising disappointment. And in a very unusual move, Square Enix have massively overhauled the game to now bring us Final Fantasy XIV Online, A Realm Reborn.
Like most Final Fantasy storylines, it doesn't link itself to any specific game that's come before. However, the world itself will still feel familiar with its enemies, music, spells, and combat.
The first thing you notice is how creepy the cutscenes are.
Yeah, without much voice acting, it's pretty creepy. We found it was much less awkward if you just do the voices yourself. In fact, I think the best way to describe this game in general is inconsistent. Some areas in the world feel a bit old and are full of little invisible walls and ledges. The map interface is still pretty horrid. But then on the flip side, some of the locations are absolutely stunning. And the character models are incredible, so beautiful.
Unicorn.
No matter how hard I tried, Hex, I could not make my little guy look ugly. I think he's adorable. In fact, he's fabulous.
Yeah, the clothes are pretty great. I could almost keep playing this game for the outfits alone. There's also a multi-class system. You gain the ability to unlock new classes or jobs. You can pick and choose as you like. There's no limit to the amount of roles you can have. You can just rock up at that guild and sign on the dotted line.
You then start completing lower level guild quests to level up that job. And the deeper you get into this game, the more flexible your class gets.
Well, let's talk about the combat. Most of your fights will be slow-paced, one-on-one. That's until you reach the instance dungeons. And this is where the combat really shines, and in true MMO style, where the classes become really important.
The one thing I like most about this game, besides how fabulous I look, is just how big this open world feels. I felt like this was a nice big open world with lots of adventure ahead of me. Another thing they've nailed is the controller support. Menus are fast, responsive, and easy to set up. You can play this game entirely with a controller on PC.
All in all, I have a lot of respect for this MMO. There are some unique aspects to it. The cross-platform play, the controller support, the character models, that and the fact that so much attention to detail has been paid to the story.
All in all though, Hex, from where this game was back in 2010 to where it is now, I think they've done an incredible job. So I gave it 8 out of 10 rubber chickens.
I gave it 7.
Good game.
And that's our pocket full for this week, but don't forget you can always catch full episodes of Good Game 8:30 PM on ABC2 on Tuesday nights.
Next week on the show, the hugely anticipated Grand Theft Auto 5.
Welcome to paradise.
Until next time, may all your games be good ones. Hex out.
Barjo out.